And it's a beautiful thing too. Hold up. Yeah.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Today we're going to be talking about WWEEVIL, the second episode, which is on Mike the Miz Mizanin. So, Mike Mizanin, the Miz. This was a very deep episode. Now, in traditional WWEEVIL fashion, they talked a lot about off-screen stuff in documentary form. But when it comes to the Miz episode, all of the stuff they talked about was an influence on the Miz. So the Miz is a classic trope called the hate that you made. And essentially what this means is that you essentially created this problem. That if you had behaved differently, if you had treated this person a little bit better, you wouldn't have this problem today. And because you never know who you're mistreating, how they're going to react. I think a good example of this was Electro from Spider-Man 2. It was terrible. Nobody ever sees me, so when I get a little bit of power, I'm going to go wonky wonky. Nah, it's kind of dumb. You can also look at it in terms of sometimes in reality, you will see, for instance, identity politics will be another one of these things where you'll often see people who hate particular groups of folks. They will blame other things on it, like, oh, you kind of created us. It was your hatred and your vitriol that created this backlash. Like some people will say the black supremacist movement was created out of the white supremacist movement. That sort of thing. It's basically, it's your fault that I'm behaving badly. And that's kind of what the story of the Miz, that the Miz wanted to be everybody's friend, but nobody likes him. So he decides to just say, screw it. I'm going to piss everybody off. Since everybody doesn't like me anyway, I'm going to give you a reason to not like me. And they tell this incredible story. And if you're familiar with the Miz, you know his entire backstory. But if you bring it all together at one time and at one point and you look at it, you can see that the Miz is the hate that you made. For instance, the Miz debuted on season 10 of The Real World in like 2000, where he said that he was a character. He was kind of goofy on The Real World. He was being himself, but he was kind of goofy. And nobody really liked him until he created the Miz. And he says that he was feeling uncomfortable for about 5 months, started drinking a little bit too much alcohol, and then created the Miz. And the Miz was his alter ego. And we get that the alter ego of the Miz was created to protect Mike's feelings because he couldn't deal with people not liking him. He created a version of himself that people could not like, and he could be okay with them not liking him. It was okay if you hated the Miz, but it wasn't okay for you to hate Mike. And because he took that personally. And you can see that once that was created on Tough Enough, that's essentially what WWE ran with. That Mike Mizanin would get all this heat just by being himself. Because he wants people to naturally like him and to appreciate what he's doing. But people don't like him. And we go through this with the Tough Enough and the him being the host of SmackDown, and people just continuously dumping all of this hate on the Miz as he tries very hard to be liked, being the Ryan Seacrest of WWE. And he's trying to work hard. He's trying to gain everybody's respect, and he just keeps getting rejected left and right, rejected. And of course, they tell the story about Benoit. They didn't say his name, but Chris Benoit kicking the Miz out of the locker room for eating chicken and getting crumbs all over the place. And guys like JBL being very, very vocal about their hatred of the Miz and how much they don't like him because he doesn't pay his dues and he talks too much and he just wants to be on TV. He's got all of these negative things about him that they're assuming, by the way, not that these things are necessarily true. A lot of these things are assumptions. So he's kicked out of the locker room, and he says that this is kind of when he started seeing that nothing he did was right. So he starts to kind of do his own thing. He says that, people started making fun of him for wearing a bandana and a fedora. So he started wearing it on TV because he figured, hey, if the boys are getting worked up over it, then everybody else will too. So I'm going to start doing it on television. Then he says we started doing the dirt sheet with John Morrison. As people started getting more upset, he was taking shots at folks and people would get upset at him. He was like, well, I'm doing my job. I'm doing the right thing. So what I loved is when they really started getting into the psychology of the Miz character, they mentioned three things that I think are very, very important. Is that the Miz is indeed overcompensating. He's insecure. That is the psychology of the Miz character. The Miz is Mike. People don't like Mike. So he's going to create the Miz so that you cannot like the Miz. The Miz doesn't have the same emotional context that Mike has. You can hate the Miz all day and the Miz doesn't give a shit. The Miz acts the way that he does in response to how you treat him. In response to all of the negativity that you have dumped upon him that has made him insecure, he is now going to engage in attention-seeking behavior. He is now going to engage in validation-seeking behavior. Now, I have a lot of experience in working with people who have attention-seeking behavior. Women engage a lot in attention-seeking behavior. That's basically their bread and butter. And I mean, no offense to, women who might be listening to this, but they do. Thirst traps are attention-seeking behavior. Crying is attention-seeking behavior. Women pouting regularly. That's attention-seeking behavior. Some people, they engage in other types of attention-seeking behavior like destruction. They'll destroy things. Children will often make unnecessarily noises because they want a parent's attention. They will do bad things, go out there and get in trouble. Like a lot of times when kids get into trouble, they're attention seeking. And that kind of things is when you understand that, you can see that this is what the Miz does. The Miz gets involved in attention seeking behaviors. And he does this stuff because he wants to be seen. He wants to be validated. He feels very insecure because he was bullied. And they rooted the character in the bullying that he faced, not only as a member of the cast of the real world, but also backstage in WWE and on screen in WWE by the audience. How he was consistently picked on and bullied and singled out by his peers and by the fans as being an unworthy champion, an unworthy guy who has no business being a top guy, world champion, main event of WrestleMania. He's weak, he's stupid, he's whack, he can't wrestle. All the things that they say about the Miz, whether it's true or not, those things are the catalysts for the Miz as a character. And the Miz is at his best when he is engaging in these attention-seeking behaviors. When he has a real storyline in which he could utilize something to get attention. And especially when things are drifting away from him being able to snatch your attention back to him and bring the heat back on him. Make sure your eyeballs are on him. This is what the A-list character, and they kind of explained it with the Miz, said that, he took some time off to do the Marine 4 and straight to DVD movie. And he came up with this idea to do the straight to DVD film star, the A-lister. And this is where he studied Andy Kaufman, which I think is brilliant. He just kind of took bits and pieces from Andy Kaufman, where, how Andy Kaufman belittled the people of Memphis and trash talked them and ran them down. And the man says, I try to take bits and pieces of that and structure that. It's genius, by the way. Genius stuff. Because Kaufman's material wasn't about Kaufman being a physical marvel. It was about Kaufman. It was about status. Kaufman's thing was the people of Memphis are stupid and backward. I'm from Hollywood. I'm smart, intelligent. I'm rich. I don't care about you people. Like he did the bit about soap, not soap, not soap, soap. Like teaching them how to pronounce words. It's so infantilizing. It's so condescending. And it works. And for a guy like Andy Kaufman, it worked. So why wouldn't it work for The Miz? And you would think that a guy whose weakness is his physical body, in terms of nobody can buy The Miz or Andy Kaufman as physical threats. If Andy Kaufman walked up to you, no matter how mad he is, he's still skinny and he still looks goofy. It's not going to work. The Miz is the same way. The Miz is a pretty well built guy. He's not tiny. He's not small. But you can watch The Miz throw a punch until the guy's never been in a real fight in his life. You know? So being in physical danger of The Miz, that's not going to be the case. So what is the real danger of The Miz? How can the Miz create danger? Well, when you watch The Miz, you see that the danger from The Miz comes in his craftiness and his cowardice. The fact that he would take cheap shots. Because not everybody is willing to stand in the ring and fight you head up and willing to take your loss. Like The Miz will do it if he has to. He'll fight you head up and take the loss. He'll lose 99 fights. But he'll get you that one time. And that's really kind of the real looming threat of The Miz, is that he'll attack you from behind and hit you with something, either with his finish or with a weapon or something like that. He's going to get you down. You know, he's not going to outfight you, but he may attack you from behind. He may take something from you, like he, in the most recent storyline, snatched Rey Mysterio's mask. You know, Rey Mysterio wasn't showing me my proper respect. I took his mask, you know? So I thought that was good. And it really feeds into The Miz's character. That, you know, if he's feeling disrespected, he tries to find something in order to get you back. Even if he can't physically beat you up, he's going to find some way of getting you back. And The Miz is what the crowd and the people backstage created. You know, all of the negativity that they heaped upon him, he keeps it, he bottles it up, and he uses that as fuel. It's his justification for being the way that he is. You know, everything is okay because when I tried to be a nice guy, you didn't want me to be nice. And there's another instance of him trying to be the nice guy. When The Miz he was the baby face. Remember this. When The Fiend broke into his house and terrorized his daughter, people booed The Miz. The Miz got booed because the Fiend broke into his house and terrorized his child. And The Miz ended up the heel in this situation. You know, it's like people hate this fucking guy, and it's for no reason. You know, it's just general. We don't believe in you. We don't buy into you. We don't want to deal with you. So The Miz is the hate that you created. And I think nothing better typifies that than the Talking Smack segment. And of course they talk a lot about this in the documentary, about The Miz getting frustrated and The Miz being mad. And Maurice got kind of emotional about this because she says like she didn't like that he got this upset about it. But Daniel Bryan, who is a bully, he's always been a bully. He's kind of a funny guy, but everybody talks about him how he's a bit of a dickhead backstage. But he basically says that The Miz wrestles like a coward, and you know, and The Miz flies off the handle. You've seen the Talking Smack segment already. Because, again, this is a simple situation. The Miz isn't getting the respect that he deserves. You know, he's the Intercontinental Champion at this point in time. He wants respect on that name. He wants respect on that title. He wants the respect to, you know, do the Intercontinental Champion. So he flies off the handle and talks about his work ethic, how he's always there. He's never hurt. You know, you're the one who's a coward who said he wanted to go wrestle somewhere else and he didn't go. You're the coward. And he ran Daniel Bryan off. Daniel Bryan wound him up and then walked off. But, you know, so it was like he knew what buttons to push to get The Miz kind of turned on, to put it, for lack of a better word, you know, to crank him up. But that's The Miz's character, you know. The Miz feeds off of that. You give him a little bit of negativity, a little bit of criticism, and he takes it and runs with it. You know, because he's not going to suffer it. He's not going to suffer being disrespected. You know, he's the only 2-time Grand Slam winner in WWE history. It doesn't matter. None of those title reigns are memorable. He doesn't care about that. It's just something for him to brag about in the middle of the ring. You know, it's something for him to talk about. It's something to motivate his character, to make you think that he's as great as he thinks he is. Because if you're looking at accolades, The Miz's career is better than 99% of the guys who have ever been in WWE rings. You know, he's done pretty much everything twice over. So it's very interesting. And I love that trope of The Miz, and it's a very creative character. That The Miz isn't just some pompous asshole who comes out of nowhere. And, you know, sure, him being an A-lister is somewhat tied into his reality TV roots. But it plays most off of his made-for-TV movies, straight to DVD films. But a lot of it is The Miz is motivated. His actual fuel is negativity. And it is Mike Mizanin's outlet for people not liking him for no reason and rejecting him. He put that into The Miz and created a, you know, very awesome character that I think people are now starting to recognize more and more. So this was tremendous. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later.
Skin tone, so why attach yourself and piggyback the wealth you didn't earn or lack yourself? I'm telling you to own up to your own success and failures. It's a reason why these sleazy guys